Welcome to the Awesemo UFC Live Before Lock show. As we're here to get you ready for UFC Vegas number 28. We are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. And of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr., to help you break down this fight card. Of course, coming to you from the Apex there in Las Vegas. We're 2 hours away from the first fight. As of right now, let's knock on wood, we have no changes to this card today. So as of right now, we do sit at a 14 fight card. So Pete, we talked about on Thursday about breaking this one down. Weigh-ins, everyone made weight, no really issues there. What's kind of has your thought process changed in any of these fights?
Not really. And the reason I'd say not really is because 14 fights. And, I think for people that were so accustomed to the 9 or 10 fight cards, you can fade some fights and get a little different. You're going to have to get a little different. And I think whenever there's more fights on the card, obviously there's more opportunity for underdogs to come through. So I think it's a slate where leaving salary on the table is always viable, but I feel like this week could be even more so.
Yeah, I had someone when I was in the office hours channel earlier was asking me about fading the main event. I'm like, I wouldn't fade it, but I'm limiting exposure to it. I will tell you this, and of course, the good news that we did get yesterday, it looked like FanDuel was not going to put one of the fighters in there. She's now in there, Fiorot, who is a smash play for me over on DraftKings.
Yeah,
my 20 max Pete, she's a 19 of the 20.
Oh damn. I
have got red flags on Ricci. She wants to get this to the ground. She's a jiu-jitsu artist. She does have some judo as well, but she wants to get to the ground. That that is a fight. 8,500. Look, her ownership's going to be high. I'll be way over the field, but if she doesn't come in big, yeah, all my lineups are done. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot dumber things. I think that Manon Fiorot is in a great spot. I think that she has a good matchup. Always when you're taking somebody on short notice, it's, you definitely like the side that had the full training camp. And in addition to that, you have a fighter bumping up a weight class and also a questionable strength of schedule. So, I mean, I do like Manon Fiorot quite a bit. I like her a lot. I think the price is, viable. I think it's actually a steal, to be honest. And, don't even get me started with the FanDuel stuff. I mean, like that's, in my opinion, was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was just kind of crazy to see that. Just like, man, it's not like this fight came about, 12 hours before the slate's going to start. I mean, that in that case, I would understand it.
Right.
But you're talking about, this fight's been in place. I mean, look, you mentioned about it. The questionable strength of schedule with Ricci does stick out to you. It's a concern for me. Mm-hmm. It's one of those situations that when I see that, and now you're coming into the UFC, I just don't think that's a very smart plan by the management of Ricci and by the coaches of Ricci. I mean, look, and Pete, you can talk about this as a fighter. For you, you're like, no, I want to fight whoever. I don't care who it is. That's why you have to trust the people around you to make sure they're putting you in this best spot. So it's just a concern. Maybe, you know what, ultimately she'll prove me wrong here, but I look at Ricci and just there's too many red flags for me.
Yeah. So, often what happens is people just want to get into the UFC. So, they feel like they're doing the UFC a favor, and then sometimes they are. So they just want to get into the UFC. They don't really care if they face a defeat in their first attempt because, I took it on short notice. After that, hopefully the UFC give me additional opportunities to prove myself and prove my worth within the company. But it is dangerous because it's women's MMA. So obviously anything can happen. Armbar from guard's always viable, always possible. I mean, she is slick on the mat. But as far as like fighting Manon Fiorot, I feel like Manon Fiorot's kind of like a prospect within a division and somebody that, could be pretty strong, going forward. So I feel like there were a lot better opportunities. Like if it was against any other women's MMA fighter, like I would probably say like, yeah, give it your shot and accept the opportunity. But Manon Fiorot looked absolutely fierce in her debut, and I'm expecting the same going forward.
And the prop bet of her to win by TKO KO minus 135 is one of the prop bets that did stick out to me throughout this show. I'll talk about some of the other prop bets that did stick out to me as I was going through all the lines. Of course, you can check that out over at Awesemo and Odd Shopper. Of course, be sure if you like what you're seeing here, be sure to give us a little thumbs up. Also, if you're not subscribed, also right here on YouTube, be sure to do that. Got a ton of great shows for you. Coming up after us will be MLB Live Before Lock. And of course, I do want to let you know about a promo that we do have going on. Use the promo code MMA Live Before Lock at checkout to get 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's promo code MMA Live Before Lock, all caps, one word, for 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus if you are a new member. And we use that promo code. That lets everyone here at the team know you heard about that code right here on MMA Live Before Lock. And of course, if you do have any questions, be sure to line those up right there, whether it's in our Slack channel, also on YouTube. We will get through those as we do go on. This is one of these cards, Pete, where there's several fights throughout this card that, like, I can paint the picture of how either fighter wins. We talked about on Thursday, the co-main event is a fight that you got to prioritize because, if Walt Harris wins in the underdog role, it's going to be by knockout in the first round. That's just how he wins fights. And if you do want to take him to win by knockout or just to win in the first round, that's plus 410. But if you want to say take Marcin Tybura inside the distance, plus 175. I think, obviously if you're Tybura backer, I think your hope has got to be that he's looking for the takedown. Ponzinnibio Baeza, I think, is another fight that you got to prioritize in terms of GPPs. Dusko and Rodriguez, I think, is another one. But there are some fights that I limited exposure on. I limited exposure on Woodson and Zalal. I think that's going 15 minutes. Yeah. Another fight that I limited exposure to was Trinaldo and Salikov. Trinaldo's this is a guy, he's a tough dude, but like you mentioned Thursday, at some point, Father Time's going to catch up to him. And the other fight I limited exposure to was Bozer and Latifi.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like on the same wavelength as you this week. Obviously, I do like Marcin Tybura quite a bit, but I agree with you that co-main event is kind of pivotal for a lot of GPP lineups. I don't really foresee that fight going the distance, or if it does go the distance, I would imagine Marcin Tybura did awesome and had tons of takedowns, control time, maybe some ground and pound, and working towards a finish. So I don't think you can go wrong with that matchup. I am favoring Marcin Tybura quite a bit. He just needs to avoid the big shot of Walt Harris. The Kirk Amirkhani fight, I think, is going to be pretty pivotal because you have a 9,400 fighter that maybe a lot of people are banking on getting endless takedowns and potentially a submission finish. But Kamwela Kirk is kind of this unknown guy, coming into the UFC. He's had a solid regional, success. But as far as general UFC fans don't know who Kamwela Kirk is. And if he can stuff takedowns and try to replicate in Edson Barboza, Shane Burgos' performance against Amirkhani, the path to victory is there. It really is. Exhaust him, make him fatigue, and capitalize when he's there. So at 6,800, he's viable. I agree with the Salikov Trinaldo. I mean, Trinaldo's been a guy that I've been down on throughout, and he just pulls off decision wins. Not really the best, but at 7,100, you take it. Salikov, low volume, could pull off a knockout. I like Mason Jones a lot. It's just a matter of roster flex, roster construction with a 9,500 fighter. Fiorot might be my first person to put into a lot of my lineups, and understand that, she looked a little shaky on the scales yesterday, but I do like what I saw in her debut. I like what I've seen in her regional tape, and I'm not too convinced that Ricci, outside of a submission win or submission attempt, can really pull off this fight. But besides that, you really hit on all the fights that I'm really targeting. The Rodriguez Todorovic is probably, like, next to the co-main event, one of my favorite GPP fights to target.
Yeah. One of the things I mentioned about Mason Jones, I think he's the most expensive fighter on FanDuel, but Alan Patrick, he's going to want to try to get that fight to the ground. So there could be some takedown opportunities there. I do have some lineups over at FanDuel. Mason Jones was one of the fighters I was looking at in terms of that captain spot. CS, appreciate you in the super chat. He says, gents, hope you are well. Yeah, everything's great with me. He says, I've been running hot lately. When you have time, can you give me your top 2 high upside boom bust lower owned dogs?
Yeah, CS, you've been killing it, man, and congratulations. Happy for you. I'll give you top 2 high upside boom bust lower owned dogs. Okay, well, let's think of this. So obviously under 8K, we're looking. I think Cam Kirk probably fits that bill because of what he could do, but it's not an easy fight. It's really not. Outside of that, who would you say is your second?
So I'm looking at our ownership projections. You know me, I'm always looking at under 20%. So Kirk is the first guy that really stuck out to me. You talk about boom bust, Walt Harris.
That's a good one.
That to me, that's an ultimate boom bust type scenario because you just know with Walt's fighting style, if he goes out and win, he's winning in the first round via knockout. Yeah. So you know the potential is he wins, it's 100-point performance.
Yeah.
But if he loses, it's like a 15-point performance.
That's the GPP like targets that we're talking about, where the 100+ points is definitely viable, but when they lose, they're single digit, and that's Walt Harris 100%. The other guy that I think is interesting because of takedowns and his grappling, even though it's not really my favorite fight to target, but he has an attractive salary, is Ilir Latifi. Mm-hmm. Now, he looked okay. I mean, he's solid. Smaller frame than Tanner Boser, but I mean, let's kind of go back. I mean, he's gotten first round finishes in the past, some KO wins, some submission wins, where he's performed over 100 points. I don't know if he'll finish Tanner Boser, and I don't even know if he'll beat Tanner Boser, but in a decision win, I think over 85 is definitely possible.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Latifi because he was the one that it did stick out to me as well. I mean, but that's a situation where he's got to get takedowns in that fight. That fight's on the feet to me is Tanner Boser's fight. That's a fight that I do expect to go all 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And looking at the decision props on that one, Latifi via decision plus 340. Boser via decision plus 200. So nice little prop bets there if you want to go on the decision prop in terms of that matchup. Of course, we're here to answer your questions. So be sure to start lining those up right there, whether it's in our premium Slack channel, also on YouTube. Do want to let you know our free premium tools and content over at Awesemo.com today does include the MMA top flyers, also MLB player projections, NBA big board, NHL main slate ownership projections. Of course, that can give you a little peek at what we have behind the paywall here at Awesemo.com. If you like what you see, sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. Get that for $29.95. Or if you just want a Awesemo MMA weekly pass, you get that for $8.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Let's start off with Andrew. He's asking about a potential takedown city candidate of Montana De La Rosa.
Yeah, so I think Montana De La Rosa can easily take down Ariana Lipski and take her to takedown city. It's definitely possible. 9,300 is always a concern for me when you're talking about women's MMA because that's a lot she needs to pay off. And what happens if Ariana Lipski can't get back to her feet? So maybe there's, let's call it one around. So now the upside is somewhat capped with 3 takedowns, tons of control time, but maybe at 9,300 that doesn't materialize into what you want. Hopefully Ariana Lipski's been working on getting back to her feet so that we could get more points from Montana De La Rosa. I do like Montana De La Rosa a lot in the matchup, but it is women's MMA. Ariana Lipski has shown that she's a dangerous striker when she wants to be, but looks kind of lost in the wrestling department.
Why are you all down on Live Before Lock Mayweather versus Paul? What are you down?
Hell no. Shout out to Jared asking that question. There's no way I'm supporting that circus.
So you won't watch it at all?
No, hell no.
What if your boys goes, Pete, I need a DD tomorrow night to go out to watch the fight. Are you going?
No, I'm not. I'm working. No, my boys like to watch that stuff. Like they like to watch the rough and rowdy, the circus triller acts, and I don't know. I'm not into that. That's not my thing. Come
on, I know you saw Logan Paul hit the back. I need expert analysis on this.
Trash. There's my analysis. Absolute trash. Hot garbage.
Look, my thing is, how much will Floyd toy with him tomorrow night? How much does he play with his food before he just ends it?
I don't know. I hope they both get knocked out. I don't care. Obviously, no. I mean, Floyd, he's retired from boxing, but he's entertaining these circus fights to make money. I mean, he's a genius in that aspect, because he's already like saying, yeah, I'll fight McGregor again. Bro, McGregor just got knocked out, and he's just trying to laugh to the bank.
So when Conor wins in July,
if that happens, you wonder if the UFC even allows it because of the implications for the division. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, Conor had some good moments in that fight, but whenever Floyd wanted to turn it up, it wasn't close.
Yeah, I know. That is combat sports in 2021. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Samuel says, any thoughts on the first fight of the slate? Is there any way either fighter ends up optimal? The first fight has been optimal. I would probably say 7 out of the last 10 events, maybe, if not more.
Yeah.
That would be Jordan Levitt and Claudio Puelles. Look, this is the one thing, and someone asked me about Jordan a little earlier over in Slack. The one thing is, in terms of what we've seen on fight night,
yeah,
the stand-up abilities it's kind of an unknown. Now, I've heard good things out of Las Vegas when it comes to Jordan. But look, here's the one thing I'll also preface that in saying, okay, I could call up Pete, ask about someone that he's trained with. More times than not, I take that stuff sometimes with a grain of salt. When I hear from things inside of a gym, because sometimes I hear really great things. And then on fight night comes, I'm like, whoa, where was this stuff that I heard about in the gym?
Okay. So I'm glad you brought that up. Right now, it's the most difficult thing in the world to bring your gym self to, fight night. Like, that is the hardest thing, and that all fighters, including myself, that we struggle with, is trying to replicate how you are in the gym with your sparring partners and, grappling and wrestling, how you are in the gym, and go perform like that under the lights. Now, you think about it like coach speak, right? Like you hear coaches talk up their players often. Obviously, teammates and training partners will have some bias, but it's pretty easy to kind of like filter that out and cut through the BS and be able to tell. Just because like a guy doesn't go out there and have a sensational performance or doesn't look like he has improved under the lights doesn't mean that he hasn't been grinding and working and that he doesn't look good in the training room. So, it's don't read too much into that. Sometimes, like they say, the tape doesn't lie. And that is true. If until they show you improvements and changes in their game, you don't want to necessarily harp on every word that they say.
Next up, Stan asking about who would be our captain over on Super Draft. Look, the easy answer for me is Mason Jones, but a captain or champion, it's only a 1.5 multiplier. So if I was looking to go somewhere else to get a little bit of a higher multiplier, in terms of someone I might be a little more confident in, Fiorot at 1.75 has got to be the one I would pinpoint.
That's a good one. That is a very good one. I like those two options. I think it's fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. As I was putting together FanDuel lineups and, who I wanted to be, at the top of that MVP lineup. I mean, there's just fights that I look at and say, man, the winner of this fight's going to be optimal. Like, I look at Harrison Tybura. It's hard for me to think that fight, I can't see it going 15 minutes. And if it does go 15 minutes, I just think you see a bunch of takedowns by Marcin Tybura. Yeah. But I think the question is, if that's the case, what's Walt Harris look like in the third round? Ponzinnibio Baeza, I think, is a fight you have to look at. I will tell you, I did put Tom Breeze as the MVP in one lineup.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, I do like Tom Breeze, right? But let's kind of look at this from like a black and white standpoint. We know that Tom Breeze struggles mentally a lot. And in the UFC, we hear so much about his grappling and his wrestling and how he always has that in his back pocket, but it hasn't really, shown in the UFC yet. And against an aggressive striker like Antonio Arroyo, you just wonder, Antonio Hoyo, I think, is interesting because of the unknown mental state of Tom Breeze. Now, I don't like Antonio Hoyo because I don't know if he's really like UFC level, but a guy that's not even UFC level can still pick up a win if your headspace is not correct. And that is probably the toughest thing about combat sports is you don't know how a fighter is mentally. Like we always think like that their confidence is high. We think that they, are unstoppable, but these are human beings and you can be intimidated. You can be shook. You can have UFC jitters. That's kind of like an unknown factor. And that's why MMA is so unpredictable. And if Antonio Hoyo cracks Tom Breeze to get his respect early, crazier things than have happened. And 7,000 Hoyo could definitely come through.
Next question we got here from Tristan: Latifi or Zalal GPP? I'd much rather go Alir Latifi. Yeah. My concern with Zalal is, look, he goes 15 minutes inside the UFC. Massive reach disadvantage in this matchup. Smaller cage, which is going to limit how much he can move around. To me, I would rather go Latifi because of the takedown potential there. And especially when you look at the DraftKings scoring system, look, Zalal obviously has a great salary of 7,400, but even in a decision win, I don't know how likely he ends up optimal.
Yeah, I agree. Like I personally like Yusuf Zalal, but this fight might be my least favorite on the card because it's just such an unattractive fight. Like you have two guys that like to strike. You have a giant for the division in Sean Woodson. You have an elusive Dominic Cruz-esque Yusuf Zalal. So the volume can already be diminished by both of their styles in a way. Woodson doesn't really move his feet that well. He likes to stay and just trade. I think this could be a frustrating fight to roster. Obviously, you see the numbers on Woodson and it looks good, but that's not a standard going forward. I think Zalal needs to close the gap. If he wants to have a lot of success, he needs to either be all the way out or all the way in and incorporate some takedowns to make this interesting. But I don't really feel like the takedowns are going to come so easy. It's a fight that I don't know about crossing off, but I would definitely decrease my exposure. Hopefully I'm correct on this.
I put my exposure at no more than 20%.
I think that's fair
on both guys.
I think that's fair. I absolutely think that's fair.
Next up, who scores more on FanDuel? Jairzinho Rozenstruik or Manon Fiorot? It's an interesting thought process there.
Fiorot for me.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing what you like about Rozenstruik is the knockout potential, obviously. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of that, he doesn't throw a lot of volume.
He doesn't. And Augusto Sakai has shown to be pretty durable throughout his career, 15-2-1 overall. Did get ground and pound finish against Alistair Overeem, but Alistair is so strong from top position that I don't really want to hold that against him. Lost to Czech Congo by split decision. So, I mean, throughout and against the people that he's fought, Blagoy Ivanov, Marcin Tybura, Andrei Arlovsky, Chase Sherman, he's been on the winning side of that and hasn't been wobbled too much or finished. So I'm tempering expectations for the main event, but I still do like Rozenstruik's power.
Yeah. Next up, David says Zalal or Kirk. I would rather go Kirk when we're talking about in GPPs just because of potentially getting the finish there. I think if Zalal wins, I think it's a decision win, and I think you're probably the ceiling might be 70 points in a decision.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how many takedowns he lands, and if Woodson looks lost off of his back.
I didn't think he looked good in the takedowns in the last fight, though.
I know that's what I'm saying. I thought Zalal could really, but Sungwoo Choi is tough. And Sungwoo Choi is pretty damn good. So maybe that's why Zalal didn't really have the best showing. But in this fight, Camwell Kirk fought a month ago.
LFA, yeah.
So and he looked damn good doing that. He's had some legitimate competition, has a win over Kevin Kroom in LFA. You look back, he has solid jiu-jitsu. and he seems to be like a pretty physical guy for the division. So I think the upside is there for Camuela Kirk. It's how does he handle the UFC jitters? That's an unknown for us, but I do like him, and I think there's more upside in that.
Next up, Andrew says, how is Woodson's takedown defense? Haven't seen him against any wrestler as of yet.
I wouldn't classify Zalal as a wrestler either. So it's not like he's going up against a D1 All-American where I'm like, yeah, I can bank on Zalal getting takedowns. He's a striker that incorporates takedowns to solidify rounds, right? Like, Zalal usually is the A side in the striking department, usually. And then when he gets either fatigued or the fighter starts to have success, he resorts to takedowns. I don't know how easy they come in this fight against a long guy who's so tall that it's really hard to take down tall people, because wherever you go and you go to lift, unless you're locking hands, one leg's on the mat, a hand's on the mat, and it's kind of like what Dominic Cruz says. It's like trying to take down a table. They always seem to keep their balance. So I'm tempering expectations for Youssef Zalal.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of that one. Next up, asks if are we fading any fights? I'm not fading any fights.
Yeah,
I've got kind of action all across the board.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't even made lineups yet. I worked all night, and I gotta do that after the show. I gotta figure out.
Are you busy or something? Is that what you're saying?
Trying, bro. I'm trying. I gotta figure out if there are any MMA stuff even open right now. If you guys know if there are tons of like 20 max and 150 max available, let me know.
Yeah. I reserved all my contests earlier on this week. I did my lineups earlier today. Yeah. It's one of those things like Wednesday, Thursday is usually when I'll just do my reserves, reserve my 20 max, reserved a single entry. So yeah. Ryan says, any 6K fighters worth rostering? To me, Kirk is really only one I got to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to keep just saying Kirk, because it's not like I'm expecting him to go out there and wipe the floor with Amirkhani. It's not an easy fight. And Amirkhani has the UFC experience. But if I'm looking, Tabitha Ricci is Jason Floyd's girl. No, I don't really have much interest there. Alan Patrick against Mason Jones, minimal, if any. I don't think Mason Jones is an easy fight. I think it's pretty difficult. The only one that's interesting next to Camuela Kirk is Ariane Lipski, because it's women's MMA. She has some submissions off of her back. I don't think that she will be able to submit Montana De La Rosa. On the feet, she's dangerous. In her victory over De Padua, she was taken down several times, but threw 175 strikes and scored 102 points in a decision. So high volume for a 6,900 fighters, should be included in your underdog pool.
Of course, we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. With Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. Of course, their player prop contests, and Pete, of course, they're all about more or less. And what I love to play with Monkey Knife Fight is more or less on strikes landed. So there was one line that really stuck out to me, and I don't know if you saw this one or not. Montana De La Rosa, speaking of that fight you just mentioned, against Ariane Lipski.
Okay.
88.5 strikes for Montana De La Rosa. 51.5 for Ariane Lipski. If this fight plays out the way I think it's going to play out, Pete, give me less on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's all, do you think the fight goes the distance, or do you think a finish happens? That's the number one question that you need to answer before you even play these more or less on Monkey Knife Fight. I do like the platform. I think it's a fun thing to get involved in. Now, if you think it's going to go the distance, how do you think the fight's going to go? Do you think Montana De La Rosa is just going to get endless takedowns or control her from top position? And then you like the less side. If you think that Ariane Lipski could have made some adjustments with her strong camp and will keep this on the feet, then she might have, they might, go past those numbers. But those are pretty damn high numbers, Jason.
Yeah, I would tell you, I saw that. I'm like, oh man, I'm that is one, because a lot of lines with Monkey Knife Fight kind of made a lot of sense to me. The main event one did stick out a little bit to me as well. Rozenstruik 37.5, Augusto Sakai 66.5
for a 5-round fight. And that's because of two things: his low volume and his KO power. If you think this fight goes 5 rounds, Jason, even his little low volume, I would imagine, how do you fight 25 minutes and not throw 37 strikes?
Oh, yeah. If you think that thing's going 25 minutes, you might as well just go double more on both of them.
I think it is. I really think it is. And even if Augusto Sakai is victorious, he has decent volume to begin with, so I think he can surpass those numbers. And Rozenstruik probably won't be a punching bag for 25 minutes. I don't know.
Just saying. Oh, after the show's over, I'm going to a monkey knife fight. I'm looking at Montana De La Rosa, Ariana Lipsky.
I might have to do some deposits there, buddy.
Yeah, of course. Be sure Monkey Knife Fight does have an instant first match deposit up to $100 when you use that promo code Awesemo. Get on to the next question. This comes from Fab5. He says Tybura and Delidze or Jones and Zalal for FanDuel. I'd prefer the Tybura and Delidze side of that one. Because, like, first off, Zalal's not going to be defending takedowns.
Yep.
So there takes out the potential of, if you're thinking, hey, let me get, Yusuf Zalal $11. To me, I look at the win probability on the other side of that being just so much higher.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do agree. I think that the side that you're siding with has more opportunity for 2 victories than the Mason Jones side.
Next up, Eric says he goes stuck between on DraftKings, Dusko and Ponzinnibio, or Tybura and Staropoli, or Baeza and Staropoli.
Damn, man, I only like one of those options in every single one.
If you told me I had to do one of those 3, I would go Dusko, Ponzinnibio.
Yeah, I would agree. The first one is possible because Ponzinnibio, outside of his last performance, looked like a force to be reckoned with. Massive step up in competition against Miguel Baeza. I personally still like Miguel Baeza because I think he can, test that chin of Santiago Ponzinnibio with his crisp boxing and has solid jiu-jitsu to rely on if it ever gets there. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I only really like one side of that. Staropoli's not a guy that I'm like overexposed to at all. I think that he has good volume, but even in decision wins, he doesn't really like surpass expectations. He'll have to do a lot to really look good on a 14-fight slate.
Yeah. Which underdog are we playing the most on DraftKings? This comes from Jared. I will tell you that I am playing a lot of Kirk, and that was as much about having Mason Jones in my lineup to try to make roster construction work because Mason Jones at 9,500, you got to go down to that level.
Yeah, I mean, to be upfront, I don't know what to expect about Kamuela Kirk, and I don't know what to expect from Amir Khani. Amir Khani is a solid fighter and could be a nice, play because of his wrestling. I will tell you that there is upside with Kirk, though. There is. He's not a scrub. So if you're thinking that he's got, a $6K, salary attached to his name, he's got to suck. He doesn't. The only thing that with him is he's making his UFC debut, and each fighter is different. How do they handle the UFC jitters? The underdog that I like a lot is Ilir Latifi. I think that the wrestling is there for me. Like I like that. I don't even know if he scores all that well, but whenever a wrestler is in a winnable spot, you have to have some consideration towards him.
Mention a couple of questions over from Slack. First off, Jeremiah says, any love for Ponzinnibio as a low-owned dog on DraftKings? Yes. Look, yeah. I think we're in a sport where it's very much we remember the very last thing we saw. And because of what we saw with Ponzinnibio, people are going to be down with this. Is a very talented fighter. Baeza, a very young fighter. You like what you see on film with Miguel Baeza, but you also have to look at, the fighters that he has beaten in the UFC and where they're at this stage in their career. I think I ended up about 40. I was in that 35-40% kind of in terms of both fighters in that range, just because I think someone's getting knocked out in this fight.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, you really think that somebody's going to get knocked out? That you think the finish is happening?
Yeah.
Likelihood for a decision percentage? What do you think? 30%?
Yeah, I was thinking 25-30%, somewhere in that range.
I think that's fair, right? Ponzinnibio, excellent guy, excellent underdog, 7,900, extreme value. I was surprised to see the line that he opened as a, I don't know about open, but he is an underdog against a guy who is relatively inexperienced and, in comparison to him. But it's that recency bias that we talk of how he didn't look good in his last fight and he looked like a shell of himself. So, maybe you ride the wave of Miguel Baeza, who's looked damn good and he's on the rise.
Rich says, he goes, what do you guys think of the first fight? Look, may be optimal. Look, it's been optimal more times than not. I mean, I do like Jordan Levitt in that fight. I think I ended up about 10% on Claudio in that one. As we mentioned earlier, the big question mark is Jordan on fight night. What does his striking look like? Because it's just a big unknown right now.
Yeah. Claudio's a guy, 9-2 overall, facing Jordan Levitt, who's a prospect, especially because of his jiu-jitsu. We have Claudio Puelles, who has been finished by punches in the past. I don't really foresee Jordan Levitt getting a TKO. He really dominates the fights when it hits the mat. But if a fighter goes out there and gets a quick finish bonus within a minute with a submission, when's the last time we've seen a quick submission, Jason? I feel like it's been some time. Like, we've seen fast knockouts, but I don't think we've seen like a 10-second, 20-second guillotine in a while.
Nothing that sticks out in my memory.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm incorrect, let me know in the chat. But I don't. It's possible, especially if somebody gets hurt on the feet. So a guy like Jordan Levitt, who hasn't tasted defeat, even on the amateur scene, 4-0 as an amateur, and now we were talking about being 8-0 as a pro. This is a test, and it's a very winnable fight.
Yeah. Next up, Russ says, how about Rodriguez or Baeza for cash? I don't mind either one of those guys for cash. I'd rather go the Baeza route than Rodriguez, though.
I think Baeza in cash, it's because you know what to expect from him, right? Like, yeah, it's a step up in competition, but the skills are going to be there. You know that he's responded well under the lights. Rodriguez is more of a play based on fading Todorovic because Todorovic kind of let us all down in his previous performance where he just abandoned defense. And whenever you abandon defense and you try to pull back to avoid shots, leaving your chin exposed, hands down, and you just constantly get knocked down by that, make an adjustment, kid. But Dusko Todorovic is at the age where he can make these adjustments, Jason. So it's a fight, like I said, I'm prioritizing. I think Rodriguez is damn skilled. I think he is. I think he's good. He has good, striking. He has good grappling. But if Dusko kind of polishes up that striking defense, I think he can really be talented within the division.
Next up, KD says, I got Kirk in 40% of my lineups. Good call. I would say you're a little overexposed there.
So, say that again. I'm sorry.
40% on Kirk. To me, that's overexposed.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I think I am like at 20. It was 20 to 25.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the cooking book, he's saying I look uncomfortable with the new setup. No, in that I was a little bit more fired up for the, when I was in my jail cell. I'm fighting a cold right now. So that's or cold or allergies up here kind of kicking my butt. So I think that's why maybe I sound different.
Of course, be sure to rock that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile. You can get that over awesemo.com/avatar. We love seeing you tweet those wins to us after the fights are over. And of course, when you place in the top 3 in a contest of over 5,000 entries, tweet your wins to @Awesemo HOF on Twitter. Win a free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. And note, only one free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. You see it right there up on the screen. Some contest winners over in the NBA and MLB. Congratulations to everyone over there. Jason taking down a NBA pick and roll contest. Also, Colin getting a win there. So congratulations to your wins there. And I look forward to seeing everyone's wins here tonight for UFC Vegas number 28. Let's see here. Let's get to the next questions. What's Rodriguez's path to victory?
Possibly test the chin. Test that defense of Dusko Todorovic. I think that it's possible. but trying to go out there and grapple a guy is maybe one of the best things for a guy who just got knocked out. Like, you try to grapple him, oh, I'm out of danger. I'm not too worried about getting clipped and knocked out and finished again. Make it ugly so that he can make a mistake in the defensive realm. But it's not an easy fight. He's really, really skilled. And I do, think of that fight as a GPP fight all the way.
Next up, Doug over in Slack says, I'm joining in late. How are we feeling about Walt Harris? Doug, the best way we can put it is, if Walt Harris is going to win, it's going to win the first round by knockout. If this fight gets out of the first round, I have concerns.
Yeah. All right. What are you going to do when Walt Harris busts a $130 on us? Because he just
he could. He very well could. Like someone said earlier on the show, we were talking about, he's the ultimate boom bust on the slate.
Yeah. Okay. In a decision, if Walt Harris is able to survive, what does he score? 80?
I guess the question is does he get some knockdowns?
Right? Because knockdowns are key, and Tybura is damn tough.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Walt.
I concern myself of, if this fight gets to the third round, what's the gas tank look like?
I think it's probably not good. I don't think it's good, man. And he's a round one type of guy.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's, as we said, it's the ultimate boom bust. John says, who's your favorite straight bet for tonight? So looking at the betting odds, look, it would be very easy to say Fiorot, but she's a 5-1 betting favorite. So I don't want to go there in terms of, I think you might have to look at Tybura at -170.
I don't personally understand why that's so close. I think that Tybura is damn good. And recently, he's looked pretty durable. What has Walt Harris done recently to think that anything is really fixed? He kind of
prior to these defeats he had against Overeem and who was after that? Volkov. I mean, he had been on a roll before that.
Has he though, Jason? Has he? Sergey Spivak on what, a day or two notice, and an Alexei Olenek 12-second KO.
Okay, let's. Everyone knows the Walt Harris story. You as a fighter know how much this sport is mental.
100%.
Should he have been fighting last year?
No, he shouldn't have. And especially with that, there are some things that are motivating factors, but I think you have to address situations at their time and then use martial arts as your outlet after you're okay. You know what I mean? Going forward, every single time he steps in the cage, he's going to be motivated by that tragedy. I think trying to balance the tragedy and performing at a high level against a guy who has a clear state of mind is very difficult. He looked dangerous against Alistair Overeem early, but then we saw the epic collapse after.
Yeah, I mean, look, and if Walt wins tonight, he'll be optimal, no doubt about it.
100%, yeah.
Fab 5 says, anyone else love Jordan Levitt as the MVP on FanDuel? I do. Oh. I have him as an MVP on FanDuel.
All right, let's hear these Jason Floyd FanDuel nuggets. Let me pull up. What's looking like on FanDuel today?
So I put some lineups in their big contest, aka big contest, where you win $10,000 for first place. So MVPs, I've got Rozenstruik, I got Jones, I've got Levitt, Breeze, Fiorot. Looking at ownership, Fiorot is a smash MVP. So I do think that if you're playing multiple lineups on FanDuel, you got to take that into your notes in terms of developing lineups. But, to me, I think you have to look at, and look, I don't love Tanner Boser as a play. Let me just say this. But if you're going to play Tanner Boser on any site today, to me, it's FanDuel.
Yeah, I'm with you, because he's going to have to defend takedowns from Alir Latifi. Now, let me ask you a question. It's kind of a question. Now, with all this Manon Fiorot and FanDuel chaos, where 1 second, the fight's scrapped and they're not scoring it, and the next thing, this could be a potential leverage situation where people aren't following, the most up-to-date things. We tweeted it out saying that Manon Fiorot will now be giving points. Ricci will not. So maybe this should be a free square in my opinion. But with all this kind of up and down regarding the situation, maybe people just don't want to be bothered with it. So they don't even want to roster it, because what are the chances that she's going to get a 0?
You'd hope not. You'd hope by the time it locks that's, nothing's going to change. Now they say that she will accrue points.
But the fear of that for most casuals, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to roster somebody that could give me a 0. I don't even know what the heck FanDuel's doing, but we do know she will receive a score. So take advantage of that over on FanDuel.
Next up, Bill says Delaze or Sakai in a DraftKings GPP.
Yeah, it's Delaze for me because of the takedowns. He looked big at the weigh-ins, as Nick Osteris said in our chat. He did. He needs to utilize his grappling. I mean, the size doesn't matter if you stand on the outside and just try to strike against Loriana Staropoli, who has excellent volume. Go back to your roots, man. Like, use your punches to set up your takedown, get top position, work on ground and pound, and working towards a submission finish.
Of course, so we got a ton of DFS coverage for you over at Awesemo.com, and we now have launched our premium tennis DFS projections, which are currently free for the French Open. They will be going behind the paywall for Wimbledon, so be sure to check that preview out right now for our tennis DFS product. Check that out over at Awesemo.com. Next up, let's Nick says Latifi won't be in my lineups, but love that guy. I mean, look, it's a fight where he's got to get the fight to the ground. If the fight stays on the feet, but look, he's a tough dude. I don't know if Bozer can finish him if it does stay on the feet as well there. Let's see here.
Who are we not talking about, Jason? Who are we not talking about? Let me kind of.
Who are we not talking about?
Haven't mentioned Salikov much.
How about Alan Patrick? His path to victory is takedowns.
Yikes, Jason. But I get it. He took Hadzovic down 9 times, scored a $121, took Stevie Ray down 5 times, Brown 5 times. The guy has upside with his fighting style. I think Mason Jones is legit, though.
I do too. Andrew says, "How about Tybura as a FanDuel MVP?" I like it.
I like Tybura a lot. I think he's a smash play today, and it's more about what I feel about Tybura, And then when I see him paired up against a guy who struggled against grapplers, it kind of just makes a lot of sense for me.
Yeah. Let's see here. If you do have any questions, be sure to fire those in the chat, as we got about 5 minutes here left in the show. I mentioned about I'm all over Fiorot here. Other fighters that I will tell you that I do have a lot of Roman Dolidze. I mean, look, you could put Dolidze at 8,400, at 8,500, Fiorot. I mean, it can help you develop that lineup.
Okay, so look, he fought John Allen, landed 51 significant strikes, excuse me, 3 takedowns, scored 92 fantasy points at 8,400. You're happy with that?
Yeah. Favorite play under 7,300.
Oh my God. Dumpster diving. Under 73. So we got Claudio Puelles, Francisco Trinaldo, Antonio Arroyo, Ariana Lipsky, Camuela Kirk, Alan Patrick, and Tabitha Ricci. God, that's ugly down there. I'll say Trinaldo because of that group. He's the most likely to pull off a decision, but I don't like Trinaldo, if that makes sense. And the next person in that would probably be Camuela Kirk. But that's still like you're really dumpster diving when you're going down.
Yeah. Look, Kirk is going to be the most popular punt play on this slate.
You think so?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Who's going to have more ownership than Kirk?
What do you mean by punt play? What salary and under?
I'm saying anything under. I'll just take this 7,300. I think under 7,300, he has the most. He'll get the most ownership.
I don't think so. I think Trinaldo gets it.
No.
According to ownership, I'm wrong. But I'm telling you.
According to ownership, you're way wrong.
Really?
Yes.
How does that make any sense, though? Okay, the matchup aside. The
Okay,
matchup.
Trinaldo's going up in weight now at 170. He is 42 years old, and you know what I say about Father Time, but he's a tough dude.
That's what I'm saying.
You count him out every time, but the question is if I tell you both Kirk and Trinaldo wins, who scores more?
Oh, it's Kirk. But my point is like casuals don't know who Camwella Kirk is. So when
They don't know who Francisco Trinaldo is. Come on.
Well, they don't need to. All they need to do is be, they need to be box score watching. And then when they sort by, fantasy points per fight and they see Trinaldo averaging 63.4 at 7,100, they're going to take a shot on him. I think that Trinaldo is going to come in decently popular. And apparently I'm wrong. But to the listeners out there, you guys see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Trinaldo's under 10%, by the way.
Get the hell out of here. That's crazy.
That's our projections.
If that's true, man, then
it is true. I got it on my screen right here.
No, I know, but that's, you know what I mean? Like we have some of the best ownership. We have the best ownership in the business. And, I think it will be around that, but I think that's a steal for a guy that's looked like he lied about being 42 years old. You know what I mean? Like he's acting like he's 35.
If you saw Francisco Trinaldo on the street, would you think, how old would you think he'd be?
I don't know.
I don't think you say 42. I don't think you say 42.
I see his face. Homeboy looks 50. But
yeah, exactly.
But I'm saying, like, perform in the octagon, put lights under him. He looks insane, and he's been performing at a high level. He just beat in 2019 Bobby Green, and then John McDessie, Jai Herbert. I don't like him in the fight, but 10% is a little ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. By the way, I should mention, as we're about an hour from lock here, MMA Top Fighters is free content over at Awesemo.com, so you can check out that. Great way to get a little peek at what is behind the paywall here at Awesemo.com. Of course, if you like what you see, be sure to sign up. Use that MMA Weekly Pass. Also, we do got promos going on there where if you're a new user, hit that promo code MMA Live Before Lock. Get you a nice little deal, 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus if you are a new member. Of course, we got a couple of about 2 minutes here left in the show. As I know you say you're starting to develop your lineups here. Here's potentially someone we're not talking about. You got to pay up for him.
Ooh.
Matt Quan and Murakami. Yeah,
the grappling, the wrestling's there, and we keep talking about Camwella Kirk, but Amirkhani's been in the UFC and he's the veteran here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, damn near 10 UFC fights. So the takedowns are there, the control time's there, the submission game is there, but outside of that, on the feet, his volume is absent, and he'll need to resort to takedowns early.
Yeah, of course. We're just about 1 hour away from lock here. Of course, keep it locked here to Awesemo.com. Coming up next, we'll be MLB Live Before Lock. And then later on today, we'll have NBA Deeper Dive and NBA Live Before Lock. Appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Saturday afternoon. Good luck to everyone here today in your UFC lineups. And me and Pete will be back next week for the strategy show on Thursday. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, guys.